Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're really going to get into it. If you've ever wondered how to be really prepared for a dive emergency, this one's for you.
That's right. We're talking basic life support for divers. Not just the typical first aid stuff, but like the real deal when you're underwater.
We're diving deep, no pun intended, into the 3.2 being prepared for a diver emergency document. And let me tell you, this isn't just a quick refresher course.
Nope. This is about understanding why those BLS skills are so much more crucial when you're dealing with the unique challenges of being underwater.
Exactly. So, first things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say BLS in the diving world?
Well, the document lays it out pretty clearly. Monitoring and acting emergency procedures for patient respiratory and and/or cardiovascular system failure.
Right. So far, so good, but I have a feeling it's not quite as simple as it sounds.
You got that right. On land, those emergencies are bad enough. But underwater, it's a whole different story. We've got the usual suspects to worry about: heart attacks, strokes, that kind of thing.
But then, on top of that, we've got a whole other set of risks that are unique to diving.
Absolutely. Drowning, obviously, is the big one. But we've also got to be ready for things like decompression sickness.
Decompression sickness. Now, that's a whole other can of worms we could probably do an entire deep dive on. But for now,
So we'll save that for another time. But then there's also the risk of lung overexpansion, which, if you think about it, is pretty wild.
lung overexpansion. For those of us who haven't encountered that term before, what exactly does that even mean?
So basically, imagine your lungs are like balloons, right? As you ascend from a dive, the pressure around you decreases, and just like a balloon that keeps rising, those lungs expand.
Oh, okay, I get that. Makes sense.
But if you hold your breath or come up too quickly, those balloons can overinflate. And let me tell you, that is not a good situation to be in. And then, of course, there's the ever-present risk of heat stroke.
Which, I mean, it's definitely a thing on land too, but probably a bit more of a concern when you're all bundled up in a wetsuit or dry suit.
Exactly. So you see, it's not just about knowing how to do CPR. It's about recognizing and responding to these dive-specific emergencies that can really throw a wrench in the works.
Totally. And even those more common medical events, your heart attacks, your strokes, they become infinitely more complicated when you factor in the whole being underwater thing.
It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. You're dealing with buoyancy, ascent rates, potential decompression issues, all while trying to get the person to the surface safely.
So basically, everything is amplified when you're underwater. And speaking of amplified, one thing that's really amplified is the importance of time.
Oh yeah, time is definitely not your friend in a dive emergency.
The document actually mentions that brain damage can start after just 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. 4 to 6 minutes, that's like barely enough time to choose what to watch on Netflix.
And that's assuming you recognize the need for BLS right away, which, let's face it, isn't always easy underwater. Is that diver down there just admiring the coral a little too long, or are they unconscious and in serious trouble?
It's a judgment call that could literally mean the difference between life and death.
Exactly. And then, once you realize something is wrong, you still have to get them back to the surface, which, depending on the situation, could mean fighting currents, navigating back to the boat, a whole other set of challenges.
Talk about pressure. So we're talking about acting fast, but as you always tell me, there's a difference between acting fast and acting recklessly.
Couldn't agree more. The last thing you want is to become another victim yourself. Safety always comes first.
Absolutely. But this whole discussion of time really got me thinking about the mental aspect of dive emergencies.
It's something we often overlook.
The document does a great job of outlining the physical steps of BLS. But how do we prepare ourselves mentally for that kind of high-stress situation?
Right, because knowing what to do is one thing, but having the mental clarity to actually do it under pressure, that's a whole other ballgame.
Exactly. Like, how do we train ourselves to stay calm and not freeze up when every second counts? That's something I think all of us divers, no matter how experienced, could benefit from exploring further.
Absolutely. Maybe we should do a deep dive into the mental side of dive safety sometime soon. I think that would be fascinating.
I'm in. But for now, folks, keep practicing those BLS skills. And remember, a calm mind is just as important as a prepared one. Until next time, dive safe.